Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When your man is playing in the summer sun, make sure he's groomed from pews to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, he can make this season his smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep his boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Have him join the 10 million man worldwide who trust Manscaped. With our exclusive offer, get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code THPN. Again, that's manscaped.com. Use the code THPN. Summertime and the trimming is easy.
Man, we really have a sponsor for everything. You guys should be checking them out. All those discounts and deals. We've got a few more later in the episode. But hey, it's the SurgeCast, and you've got Kat
and Bailey. Dynamic duo is back.
Dynamic duo. Sorry, there's no Zach today. He will be missed, and we know he's going to be a little extra sad because of who we got to talk to today. But I mean, I was just so excited. The fact that we got this guy on, he actually wanted to talk to us. We're honored, beyond honored.
Oh my gosh. And he laughs at us when we use that word, but holy crap, was this a big guy, a big guest to talk to today. We've been teasing it for a little bit. Richie made a very memorable video for the SurgeCast Twitter account that kind of drew some attention. Which I've heard he was very proud of.
If you've been paying attention, and I think we also posted a question recently, so you guys might have an idea of who we're talking about. I mean, honestly, if you clicked on this episode, you know who we're talking about.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it's not every day. I love all of the guests we get to talk to on here. A lot of them are great friends of ours now, but
every single one of them has been so special.
It's not every day, though, you get to talk to the new president of Carolina hockey.
Doug Warf, guys, he needs no introduction further than this one. Be sure to check it out next. So, you guys, we were teasing a bit of a special guest at the beginning of the episode, and I am proud and honored to introduce and welcome President of the Carolina Hurricanes, Mr. Doug Warf, to the podcast. Doug, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you, Bailey. I get nervous about proud and honored. I'm doing great. So thank you.
Oh, are you used to the title yet? Are you used to the title being?
Not at all. And I kind of hope I never get used to it.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't imagine, especially with your history with the team, too, and kind of coming back and stepping into such a large role. I can't imagine what that must kind of be like for you.
Yeah, it's been fun starting as an unpaid intern in the 2000 season. This was a dream job, and as you go through the process and as you kind of, I guess, lack of a better term, grow up, sometimes you think your dreams are shifting. So it was really surreal when Don called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" And I had not honestly been thinking about it that much over the last couple of years. It's something that kind of exited my brain. So it has been a little surreal. It's been fun and challenging to come back. There's a lot going on. So there hasn't been a lot of idle time to think about it, to be honest with you.
And you kind of mentioned too, Don kind of being the spearhead of bringing you back. And all of a sudden he's kind of stepping into a new role of his own.
I don't think anyone realized how many pots he had on the stove until he was like, "I'm going to leave, guys." And then everyone was like, "Oh, okay, well, what now?" And so he's left you and Eric Tulsky a lot to have some fun with.
And Brian Fork, we've all made the joke, kind of three people replacing him. I think honestly, even Don would say, had he stayed with the development side, there would have needed to be more help. That's a really, really big undertaking in itself. But even if you just take the business of the team and the management of the actual hockey playing of the team, he was down to, I think, one or two folks in the league who was still doing both. Almost every other team is truly broken up in those two facets, and he was good at both. I worked for Don as president for 2 years, And he was always known as a hockey guy, so I wasn't sure how that was going to work coming in on the business side, but really, really sharp business acumen. So I enjoyed working with him. And that's why we stayed kind of connected in my 7 years away. We would bounce things off each other. And for the businesses I was running, sometimes I would bounce things off of him. Hey, I've got this challenge. I'm doing this. Have you thought about this? So, we'd stayed connected while I was away.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, we speaking of, Doug being a hockey guy too, we've seen him lace up the skates. Has that ever been something you've kind of done, or how much of a hockey guy?
You see me on the ice. No. What's the old adage of keep your mouth shut and leave doubt, then open your mouth, remove all doubt. That's the same for me in skate. I'm an amazing skater. I'm going to tell you that, Bailey and Kat, and you will never see otherwise. So
we'll take your word for it.
So you started, and I kind of love hearing that, because didn't you started with as we were talking before this episode, we were very impressed by your LinkedIn. Is you started with the Carolina Mudcats, and then you became a intern for the Hurricanes, and the skating ability hasn't increased since then at all?
No, it's not.
No, he's a great skater, Kat.
Yeah, it has stayed at an elite level for the past 25 years. No, it's funny. So I played baseball. I was born in South Carolina. I grew up in Winston-Salem. I grew up playing baseball. When I was in Winston, there were not many options to play hockey. We actually played street hockey and played inline hockey as my friends, but there weren't even leagues. I remember specifically trying to go play in an inline hockey league in Winston at the time. And we drove there, so we were 16, and all the other kids who were ready to play were like 9. And I remember their parents being terrified. And we said, all right, we get it. There's not a league for us. We left. I think that's one of the fun things about the growth here. But yeah, I grew up playing baseball. It was odd that when I came into the Canes, some of the stuff that I was overseeing was youth hockey, but I hired well there and surrounded myself with really good people, and they didn't know that I couldn't play.
I don't think it's a requirement until maybe they ask you to coach, and then that might be something you can't quite lie about.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, and you see this the business side of sports, especially as you're coming up. When I was in my early years, you don't see much of the game at all. So if you're a diehard fan, it can be challenging because you're not seeing the game. Honestly, it was harder for me in baseball because there was a part of that where I felt like, okay, I can analyze this game. I want to be on the GM side. I want to trade players. I want to think, who should we cut? Who should we call up, etc. I've never had that on the hockey side. I've always been focused on the business and how do we connect with the community and how do we grow the game, not, who do we need to trade? Who do we need to pull up? Who needs to be playing on the first line? I think of that as a fan, but I've never thought of that from a standpoint of I should be doing that job.
And speaking of, sports from the business side too, and touching back on your LinkedIn profile, you held a very similar role to another guest that we've had on this podcast, somebody who we love and cherish dearly, and Dan LaTaraka. How closely have you kind of been working with him so far, and what has that previous role kind of done to prepare you for a role like this?
Yeah, it's helped me a lot. Dan's great. Dan's extremely talented. I was joking before we jumped on that I'm actually not in my office. Dan is currently in my office in a meeting with Mike Sunheim, Michael Brown, and Matt Suter. So, working a lot with Dan, and it's honestly, I said this in my intro press conference, but I truly meant it. The amount of people I knew at a leadership level here, there are 16 vice presidents. There are 5 people with kind of C-suite or executive titles. So there's roughly 22 people at a leadership level here. I knew every single one of them, even the ones that I had not worked with, like Dan, I never worked with directly. I've known their talents, I've known how sharp they are. So it's been exciting to come back in. But Dan and the teams that he's working with, some really, really talented people. Very lucky as a team.
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
we're going to have to give him grief for taking over your office a little bit.
We'll remember that next time we have him on the pod.
It's fun though. I'm enjoying getting back into that because, and I think it's true. The 7 years I've been away, I've been a fan, and so I've seen the coverage of the team. There's been parts where, I'd be honest, I've been jealous of the fact that they've been so damn good, and that they've had so much fun things to cover. So I think they've done a fantastic job, and a lot of what we're trying to decide and figure out is how do we keep pushing the pedal down on that as we move forward, and kind of continue to grow those pieces.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of growing, our audience was super, super excited. We kind of posted a little teaser asking for some questions. We got quite a few, so I'm hoping it's okay if we jump into a few of those.
Maybe. I'll say yes now.
Yeah.
You can pick it. Listen, you can tell us as much as you can. Trust us. Dan has taught us how much. He's like, I can tell you this much, and it's always good.
Walt Ruff does the same thing with us. We're used to it.
Good.
We're very familiar. Any little bit of crumb is helpful. That is all that we like to say. But
as podcast hosts, we're journalists first, so we have a knack for questions. We apologize.
Yes. So some of the first ones, and some of these also came from our social media / producer, little gremlin, we call him. He's the one who actually posted that dancing of the
dancing
video.
That was really good. Yeah.
He was very proud of it, and he was very proud that you liked it.
My wife loved it. She thought it was the best dance ever. So.
That was, I mean, we knew it. See, we just didn't know the skating ability. We knew the dancing ability, but
strong.
So you released new renderings of the PNC Arena renovations. From a fan engagement side, what enhancements will fans appreciate the most regarding the renovations?
Yeah. All right. First correction. I released nothing. The Centennial
the team.
Authority.
Sorry.
Well, the teams.
This is a key piece. The Centennial Authority released those, and that is, we have a voice, and these renovations are being done because Tom decided to keep the team here and sign a long-term lease and all those pieces, right? So that's what leads to these things. When I say keep the team here, keep the team in this arena, and that's what leads to these things. But those decisions are being decided by the Centennial Authority. We talk to them, they listen to us, they take our feedback, but it's their decision. So there's some of that where I always try to couch that because I don't want to make it sound like these are Doug and Brian and Tom Dundon's decisions. We have a voice, we don't necessarily have a vote. And I'm excited about what they showed because I think they have done a very nice job, the Centennial Authority, of listening to Tom Dundon, to Don, to others who have said, hey, here's what we need, right? And here's what the building has been lacking. The Centennial Authority does a great job on their own of traveling to other buildings, seeing renovations. They did a trip a couple of years ago to Seattle and kind of the Pacific Northwest. They literally just got back from LA where they went to the new Intuit Dome, which is wild. They went to SoFi. They went to Crypto, which used to be Staples Center. So they are constantly going to see things. I think there's a couple of layers to this. There is a piece of this where the VIP experience grows a little bit because we don't have some of those really cool arena level locker room adjacent clubs that all the new buildings are building. That only impacts a handful of people, right? That club fits 400 people. I would not normally have been in that club. So I get that is a piece that's all right, neat for those folks. I think for the fans, where I would have been, there are some really cool pieces that are being added. And I think that's the nice way the Centennial Authority is approaching this. How do you help all groups? That third level view bar that would kind of eliminate a couple sections, but would add some SRO seats, creates a really cool environment on the 300 level that I don't think currently exists in our building. Not only does it allow a fun way to look into the building from the concourse, it also brings the energy of the building onto the concourse, which I think is key up there. Infilling some of those stairs, I often used to joke that we had more stairs than anyone in the league. I didn't know it was a fact until they did this research.
Oh gosh. No,
but
walking up those stairs
footage.
with Walt when I shadowed him while I was out there, it's insane.
And great, right? A lot of ingress, egress options, but you don't need that many. And when you do start to look at, okay, there's a lot of square footage being taken up by these stairwells. And when you think about, okay, we could infill this, and put a lot more C-stores that allow quick in and out of grabbing of beers, of snacks, etc., it makes that third level experience a lot better. Those same types of things would happen on the second floor and the first floor. What you have seen is what they're calling phase one. There are phases 2 and 3 of arena renovations that impact the club level and then the main con. But a lot of that's going to be based on what can be done from an expense standpoint. The other huge thing that was shown in that, which I don't know which way they're going to go, is the front south side. And what do you do there? Do you do kind of the phase one, which is a smaller, or do you go to this grand, 40-foot glass entrance viewpoint that kind of creates a more inside outside party vibe? Those are really big things that to me are very exciting. And I've always felt like our arena, to some extent, lacked that grand entrance that you get at some other arenas. So that'd be a really fun thing to add.
Absolutely. Speaking of being excited for things too, not only are there a lot of, renovation ideas coming to PNC, there's also a lot of ideas coming for the area and land surrounding it too.
Yeah.
I want to kind of ask what you're most excited for regarding, I believe it's something called mixed use district area. I don't know the correct terms. That's probably something that you're a lot more well-versed in, but I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on that.
I think whatever you said is great, Bailey. I think we're still figuring this out too. And I think, as you look at these, and this is Brian Fork, our CEO is really hands-on both the arena development side and the outside side. So I'm kind of taking some talking points from him, but I'll take this from my standpoint of being here for 20 plus years. I went to NC State, I've tailgated in these parking lots, and I love the tailgating nature. I also have traveled with the team to a lot of places and been envious of even what you see in somewhere like a Columbus, where you walk out of the arena and you walk straight into bars. Obviously, people point a lot of fingers to Nashville, kind of hard to replicate Broadway, right? But what we could do here from a standpoint of, you walk out, there's a hotel on the grounds that people can stay in. There's 4 or 5 bar and restaurant options that you can walk out to. There's a sports book, right? There's things that would want you to stay here, as opposed to, how do I leave the arena and try to get downtown or try to get to North Hills, right? That's just not a great fan experience to feel like you have to go to one section of town for the game and then a completely other section for post game.
Absolutely.
I think that's what excites me about what's going to happen here.
Absolutely.
As a fellow fan, as you said, you've come in for games and you've tailgated and stuff. As a question, do you think these renovations are going to make the parking even more fun to get through, or is it gonna? I don't know how to ask this. Is it gonna make it more of a fun experience to park at PNC?
Yeah, listen, I think you have to think of this. We have to get approval from NC State to do any of these things, and I appreciate the way they've looked at it. Is they've said, hey, we understand what you're trying to do, and we understand that bars and restaurants and hotels will make the arena area feel better, but this still has to be unique from a tailgating standpoint and a fun standpoint. Absolutely. And the initial renderings that you may see sometime in the next couple of weeks, they have that, right? So like the parking decks have more of a fun atmosphere to them instead of just parking decks. There's a way to bring that tailgating vibe to it. I applaud Pac Elm, the group that's doing the development, for trying to continually think about how that's impacting it. Kat, to your point of like the 25-26 season and 26-27 season, will it be a little more challenging as kind of things are being built and shovels are in ground? Yeah, I'm not going to lie and say, oh, this will be a piece of cake and no interruption. And we're trying to get exits built in and off of Wade and Edwards Mill, and we're trying to get more ingress points and all of those pieces. Yeah, it's going to be tough for a couple of years as we grow. I think the way they've built it out is thoughtful so that it'll be as mild as possible. But yeah, there will be a small impact, but I think as people see it, as people see the renderings, they know that kind of what's coming will be a better experience overall.
Absolutely.
So, and then you did mention, and yes, I knew there would be growing pains with the construction and everything.
Well,
we just like to get it.
And not to cut you off,
Yeah.
there's a key piece of this where like the NC, and I'm like pointing out, though you can't see where I'm pointing because I'm looking
Like,
out at the.
It's a little difficult.
I'll take the camera, but the NC State side, right? The Carter Finley
Yeah.
side, anything across whatever that is, Peter Carmanis, Shea Stroud, I'm not sure which one runs in front. Anything over there is not being touched. So that side, those lots aren't being touched at all. So tailgating still lives on there as it would normally. And a lot of the PNC Arena side stays that way. It'll be 15 years before we get down to kind of some of the stuff in the back side of the building from a development standpoint.
Okay. That's great to know. I knew there would be some growing pains, but love to hear that because we love to we pride ourselves in our tailgate tour.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to have that question. So of course, everyone should just know as construction starts and stuff, of course, try to get to the game early to get through.
And if you're tailgating, you're doing that, right, Kat?
Right,
No one
exactly.
tailgating shows up at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock
no.
game. So.
See, and that's the one thing that I think I
yeah.
miss a lot too, especially since moving out of state. I haven't really had that tailgate aspect. So knowing that as these renovations and changes to the lots are kind of coming too, that's an integral piece that you plan on holding on to makes, I'm sure, not only my heart very, very happy.
Yeah. And I need to say that, like, even this past year at MDO Holdings, I had 4 or 5 former Canes folks who worked for me, right? And we all were coming to playoff games, and I almost shut the office down at 4 o'clock so everybody could essentially go get their tailgates ready.
Fan first. Love it.
That's a good boss.
So,
that's a good boss.
that is something I appreciate too. And I think it's great, right? I think the players love driving around behind the building and seeing people lined up and on the grassy knolls. And we want to keep those elements intact for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you talked about how there's going to be, of course, different phases with the renovation. They're being broken down. Do you know what's probably going to be happening first? What fans should
or what
expect?
fans can kind of look at first? Are you able to
share it?
Yeah, I want to make sure we kind of get some of those things approved with the proper parties first. But we have our plan, obviously. It's been announced about a smaller venue, Live Nation setup. That's something that we're excited about, and then any of the pieces that would be around that, some initial bars and restaurants. But a lot of that, there's a lot of folks who need to say yes to that first. So we'll let those processes take place.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Kind of moving away from a lot of the renovation side. I don't want to take up too much time with that. And I want to really focus on, your role as president and how you've been here for years and years and years. It's what I would imagine to be like a home type situation for you. What's been your favorite part about being back?
Oh, good question. Easily the people. The reason you do these jobs, they're long hours, and they've been long hours for me coming back. You do it because you like the folks you're working with, and you like what you're working on. Sarah Daniel, Jim Ballwig, I shouldn't do this, shouldn't name people because then people will feel left out. But, the key things that I'm working on, which are kind of the sales, marketing side, and then the arena side where Tom Embry and his team, those things are fun to me. And I've really enjoyed kind of getting back in. There are some things your brain kind of forgets, but then when you get back in, you remember how you do certain things or how certain trucks come into the office or how you need to check someone in or weird little nuances that have popped back up that I've like, man, I totally blocked that out of my brain. But the people here are great. And I think what is fun is the people who stay through pandemics and through those tough times, they get it, right? And there's a lot of those folks who are here, Glenn, Johnson, et cetera, that I love working with. So excited to work with those folks again. What's
been the biggest difference coming back?
Winning.
Winning.
Consistent winning. You think about when I was here, we'd made the playoffs in consecutive years one time in the history of our organization. The 01 season and the 02 season were the only times we'd made it back to back. And as much as even think about this, and this is part of why some of my grays is, I start, you go into '02 Cup Finals, '03 we are dead last and even lose the draft lottery, right? That's where we were at that point. Then we go into a lockout, a season-long lockout. We come out of a season-long lockout, win the frickin' cup, and then you're like, hey, nosedive for 2 years, come back to Eastern Conference Finals, you know, dive off for a bit, host an All-Star game, and in 2011, I think with the All-Star game and where that team was, Jeff Skinner as a rookie, you had Dalpy, you had Zach Boychuk, you had Jamie McBain, you had all these young pieces with these older core. You thought, man, we are positioned for long-term winning, and it just never happened. And there was a lot of that where I felt like Jim Rutherford did a lot of work and the pieces just didn't fall correctly. Players got injured, whatever would happen. It was always kind of just a tough snap each year. It's been great to see what we've seen the last 6-7 years, and I think is going to continue. And I have never seen it where when we go to a public on sale like we did today with tickets, where we aren't thinking, okay, this game's got 12,000 tickets to cover. How the heck are we going to sell 4,000 of the 12,000? So there's at least 12,000 people in the building that night. There's no game on the map that has that problem, which is just a whole new challenge where now we're more worried about, oh my God, we've already sold out too many games, and the Eric Stahl night's already close to capacity. This night's already close to capacity. That was never an issue in my first 16 years here. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No.
Where I cried a little bit in the middle.
I think we all
That's
did.
the biggest difference.
I mean, you have gone from, it's great. You went from an intern and then you went to VP marketing and then now to president. But you've been through like all the times with the Kings. You've seen so many different versions of this team, and you've seen what we call we've had the winning, and then you also saw, and times as fan or time as a worker, you've seen the dark years, as we refer to them so fondly. But so your experience I know so many people were excited because when they saw that you were named and you were coming out, so many people were excited because everyone was like, well, he's a fan first, but he's had his time like working with the team and he's been through all this. So he's seen where we've grown, but also you're such community first, which is what this team has always been really good at. And it can only go up from here, especially with you at the helm. So I know that's one thing we're all really excited about having you on. But speaking of you as an intern, was there advice you would give yourself as an intern that you wish you knew then compared to now?
No, probably not. It worked out really well for me. And a lot of people have to leave a team to see progress. And I think a lot of that, some of it's hard work. I'm not going to say that I was, just lucked into things, but a lot of it is timing and luck and people leaving at the right times. I was always willing. I'd received really good advice of always be willing to just take on new challenges. And so I never saw myself as X, right? I never thought of myself, well, I'm in sales, so I'm a salesperson. I'm in marketing, so I'm a marketer. I never thought of that. I always try to think, how can I better understand the business? And that served me well because I bounced a bit, but I think it helps me. It has helped me where I am now because I've held a lot of the positions and know a lot of the challenges. My first meeting with the entire team, the staff, it's roughly 200 folks. I said, and I mean this, everyone here has a hard job, and on any given day, someone here has the hardest job, right? And that ebbs and flows and changes. And until you do other roles, you sit there and say, those sales guys, they get commission and they get, when the team is not playing well or when something goes wrong, they're the first line of defense for everybody that's calling in, right? When the ops team's having to do a changeover and we're putting dirt down for Monster Jam and then we have a hockey game the next night, their job is the hardest job. When we've had 7 straight days with things in the building and it's all catering based, those catering folks have worked 95 hours in 7 days. It just is cyclical, and I think that helped me a ton. If I was talking to young Doug, I would just say to keep that in mind as you grow.
And I'm sure a lot of it too. I think it's really inspiring you going back and saying, no, I don't think I'd give any advice. Because I feel like a lot of that, especially from an intern side of things, is a learn as you grow type process. And I think not as many interns going into situations like that really treasure that. They're always looking for the advice as opposed to, take it as you go. It's really, I don't know. I think inspiring in a way to be able to sit there and say, no, I learned this and this, without some outside.
I will say, and I'll give a shout out to a guy named Brian Meme, and I use this analogy a lot. He was one of my first bosses as an intern. I had 2 stints as an intern here, but Brian told me that there are 2 types of people that walk up to a flood. If you see people packing sandbags and everybody's got shovels and they're packing sandbags because the waters are rising on the river, there's 2 types of people. One walks up and says, "Hey, how can I help?" And the second person walks up and starts filling a sandbag and stacking them up. And he was like, look for where you can be of assistance and start stacking sandbags. Don't walk up and say, "How can I help?" It's obvious how you can help. And I think a lot of times when you're coming into situations where people are overworked or burnt out, the last thing they want to do is think about, let me find a task for you to do.
Right.
And it's important for you to walk in and say, okay, I think I can help you here. How about I try this? And he gave me that really good advice when I was, God knows how old. And it stuck with me. And I always try to find, okay, here's something I feel like I can help with and be of assistance. And usually someone would be like, yeah, try that, go do it. And you'd mess up 5 times, right? But the 6th time you'd get it right.
Yeah. We kind of saw a little bit of fan Doug come out a little bit in a earlier question. And I'd love to kind of bring that out a little bit more. There's a lot to look forward to in this upcoming season with new signings, some guys returning. What is the thing you're looking forward to the most this upcoming season?
Yeah, it's fun. I have to watch myself when I talk to Eric Tulsky because I do still have a little bit of a fan side and I have to cut that off. But listen, I think there's a lot of fun stuff. One, there's a lot of cap availability that'll be there in the 25-26 season. So I think this year is a year where you've got a lot of core pieces still intact. And, when you go from Jordan Stahl to Aho to Slavin to Svetch, you go down that list, Tenacious. Do I think Drury will be back? Yes, I think he will be. Who knows, right? I can't say that definitively yet, but there's so many of these pieces that you're looking at. You say, okay, that core is strong. And then, Don, Eric, Darren, that team has done a fantastic job drafting, and you got to give those guys a shot. The way you're going to win a Stanley Cup is by having veteran core with young talent around it. And we've got to see what some of these guys can do, and we've got to see what can play out in the goal and other positions. So I think this year's going to be a fun year where I think there's a lot of internal belief around some young guys coming in that will have an impact. And then I think Eric really quietly put together a really nice kind of free agent class that I think might fly under the radar a lot like we did. I mean, I remember this vividly, never forget. And I love Luke DeCock, but I remember him hammering Jim Rutherford at the time. Paul Correa was the big signing we were supposed to have, right? And no one was lauding Matt Cullen and Corey Stillman and a lot of those guys. And I'll never forget Peter Laviolette coming in at summer camp that year, and he was giddy. And I was like, well, nobody else is giddy. And he was like, no, you don't know. Like, these guys and this team, it's going to be good. I think there's a little, I don't mean to overhype. I think there's a little bit of that vibe here, right? Where it's like, hey, we've put together a pretty good team that a lot of people aren't looking at, and we'll have flexibility through the year. I think you come trade deadline time, there will be some flexibility. And then come in the offseason, there's even more. So I am pumped about this season to see what some of the younger players can do and to see how the new pieces fit in. And I think there's a lot of excitement inside the building around that.
Who's your player to watch this upcoming season?
I'm not going to do that.
No,
No,
I wasn't sure you could do that morally, but
I was going to ask who his favorite player was as he was like through the past years. And I was like, I can't ask him that now. He's too.
I will answer that. I'll answer that in a certain way.
Okay.
That not my favorite player, because I loved a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
One of the ways that someone posed this to me is if I were to have played, right? Since I'm an elite skater. Two guys that I always loved the way they played were Scott Walker and Tuomo Ruutu. And, those are guys that probably will never be I don't mean to say that, but they aren't Hall of Fame candidates right now for us. But those are two guys that were great gentlemen off the ice, but were very hard to play against on the ice. And I always loved that about those two guys.
I will say I liked a lot of the things you were saying as a fan. Like you're saying you're trying not to get too giddy or everything, but a lot of the stuff you said, like we resonated with that in our podcast and talking amongst ourselves and other fans. Is a lot of the things we do with free agency. There's a lot of pressure on us now because we're actually being a successful team. So there's a lot of pressure when it comes to free agency or the trade deadline. Everyone's like, make a big move. But the Canes have done really well in being like, we're not going to go too crazy because we can find the hidden gems that just solidify our group enough that we push forward, where a lot of other teams seem to go big and flashy and then they kind of fall off a cliff. So I really do love every time when we do our signings, it's a lot of that same thing where everyone's like, oh, you just signed these guys. And then those guys go and outperform than some of the big stars because they fit so well because we know how they go with our coach, with our players. And I will say, with you saying our young core and our young players mixing in with some of the older players and the veterans we saw a lot of that, which put Seth Jarvis on any line. I mean, you got him with Martinook, you got him with Saul, and that kid's zooming. And I have to be the voice of the people right now, but there's people yelling at you, Doug, that you gotta sign that kid. You gotta get him.
This was one of the biggest questions I got, and it was a lot more with more colorful words, I will say.
Yeah. One key thing, that's not part of the business side. If I had a vote,
I didn't think so.
Now he's pushing it to Eric. He's like, that's Eric. It's all Eric.
Listen, I will say this, and I love the way Eric's approached things this offseason, and I think he's done a really nice job. You can't rush some of those things, and there is no deadline, right? Right now, there is no deadline. So in those pieces, sometimes you need that to spur a decision. I feel like Eric's handled it really well. And I think everybody here loves Seth, but I think all those things will work out in time. I think what's exciting, you've got some young guys who stayed in town. Like that's all you have to look at right now. I will miss one or two, but Nadeau, Morrow, Blake, there's a handful of guys who are skating now in Raleigh, and they stuck around from the prospect training camp, which says a lot. You don't always see that. So you see some belief from other guys too of like, hey, let me put in the time because there's a shot. And that's a fun thing to play with. Who knows if they'll be like Seth was, it doesn't always catch lightning in a bottle like that. And it doesn't always work to where it lasts forever. We've had that before too, where they have one good season and then it's not sustainable. There's all those pieces that play into it, but it is exciting to have some opportunities, I would say.
And I will say too is we touch a lot on the podcast about the culture side of Carolina and how that appeals not only to the community of fans that come in, but to the players as well, and how that really is something we pride ourselves on. You see guys like Jacob Slavin, like Rod Brindamore, who have stuck around and learned to call this place home. Do you think there are some of those aspects that you're looking to build on that will make that even better for players moving forward?
Totally. And I think that starts with Rod, and Rod has been a friend for a long time. And his wife and my wife are actually really good friends and went to school together. So we've known each other.
That's where you learned to skate, right?
It used to be when I was beating Rod in races. That's where we bonded.
Oh,
Next,
you got to work on that. You got to work on that bench press now.
At the gym.
So, there's so many funny stories I could tell, but I've been on the beach with Rod before, and it's not. I don't like doing that. I don't like being near him shirtless. Not good for me. But it starts with him, and I think he builds that, and I think the challenge almost is for us to match that on the business side. But he builds a family side, and I think that's what Laviolette did really well when he was here. I think Rod really took to that. I think you can see that from the players. What we try to do from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, when we're interacting with the guys, our job is to build trust with them so that we can humanize them and show them to the fans, but not ever make them feel like we're going to put them in a bad light. And I think the team's done actually a really nice job of that over the past few years. Dan LaRocca, Mike Foreman, those guys have built trust in the room that hasn't always been there. And I think Rod has allowed that. Rod is the first gatekeeper of that. And I feel like that's our goal, is to continue to bring those stories to light, because our guys we got a lot of really fun personalities that we want to showcase.
Absolutely.
So we have heard a lot of great things from you, Doug, and we know you're very busy. So we just have maybe one or two questions left for you. And one of them being, what are your goals for the future of the Carolina Hurricanes? And what do you maybe see happening as you look to grow the reach of the Hurricanes through North and South Carolina?
It's a great question. When you're winning is a great time to kind of push the gas pedal down on a lot of these things. So I think with the window I think we've got in the next 5 to 10 years, that's the exciting part about growth. And when you look at, okay, can we really build something? I was saying this the other day to somebody. What you look at from long-term fan bases is there's been generational times of someone passing something down. And the newer franchises always feel bad because people like to take shots, and it's always older traditional markets that, you don't even have any yeah. Well, when you were bad, there was nobody in your building either, and you've been around for 70 years, right? You've had 3 generations of passing that down from kid to kid to kid, and you still couldn't fill the building. And I'll take that to a side, but I think that's the fun starting point now, is you're seeing the first time that there are generational fans whose dads or moms were fans, and now they're coming along, and maybe they're even passing along to their kids. That's when we can start to expand the reach. That's when we can get to the coast. That's when we can get to Charleston. Where I just left, we had a lot of businesses along the coast from Wilmington to Charleston. And it was fun to start to see how many people there were Canes fans and who knew of my time at the Canes and would want to talk to me about it. That's growing a lot. I think that starts from trying to make sure the community feels a bond with the team. And that has to be on us, making sure that the community and the fans feel connected with the team. Same type of thing that happens in the Olympics when you start to hear human interest stories and start to hear the background of a person, you become more tied to their journey towards gold. We need to work on that and continue to push that forward, so all of our fans know how hard it's been for our guys to get to where they are, and that no one takes losses harder than the players and the staff, right? And though it hurts as a fan, and I felt that walking out of here, because I was booking a damn flight to New York for Game 7. But I reminded myself as I was walking out that night, man, I feel for Don. I feel for Mike Foreman. I feel for Rod, because they were crushed more than anybody. And it sits with them longer than anybody. And I think the more that we can continue to tell the stories, it brings kind of a unity. And then I think our impact as we continue to grow our foundation efforts and our efforts to give back in the community, we want people to know that this is where we live, this is where we're raising our families, and we want these communities to strengthen and grow. Really long-winded answer. Sorry, Kat. Good, concise question. I gave you a 35-minute answer.
No, you're good. We love to hear all of it. We love to hear all of it. Again, hearing from you, like, fan perspective, going from working there to being a fan to going back to working there, it's great.
I feel like that's
an
you're
the voice of everyone.
Yeah, I feel like that's an owner's and a GM's dream, is having somebody who can take that business side from a fan standpoint, know kind of what the fans want, be able to connect in that sort of way. I feel like is really it's really treasured on a team, especially with a team as community driven as this.
I think Tom had a lot of options, so I think he gets that, and I hope people see that. And the fact that he brought in both me and Brian Fork. Brian's a fan too, hasn't worked with the team, but he's an integral part to what we're trying to do. And he's been a fan. I mean, he made the joke, and we made fun of him afterwards, of saying he went to games in Greensboro, which is inside the building is like your one thing when people try to pull out their card is, FSG, right? Fan since Greensboro.
Yeah.
But it's true for him, and it's true for a lot of us in here that we do lead with a fan mindset.
That's awesome. Well, Kat, if you don't have any business related questions to end us off.
I don't have any more, unless he has any last words to Carolina Hurricane fans, Caniacs. Any last words you got for him, Doug?
No, my last words would be thank you. I think that's what's fun about this is I have enjoyed even coming as a fan. My friends make fun of me because they're like, man, we still can't go with you because you get stopped a lot in the concourse. But I think that's the beautiful part about our fan base, right? Is that there's a community inside of our fan base. And that I've always loved that. Excited to be back inside of it in this way, but was fun as a fan. And Bailey, Kat, Zach, I know you guys lead this podcast. Thank you for what you're doing because you spread the love, right? You spread the stories, and the more folks out there talking about the Canes, the better. So thank you, and thanks for the time you put into it.
Absolutely. Before we send you off,
it's our pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we send you off, I do want to run a little, I guess, last get to know you question.
Okay.
And I feel like food is a great way to do that. North Carolina is known for a lot of it. So to get to know you, Doug, if there's an out-of-state fan coming to see their team play the Carolina Hurricanes in person for the first time in the state of North Carolina, and they're looking for food recommendations, where do you send them?
There's no doubt for me. We worked with Ashley Christensen a lot at my old job, so I would send them to Pools.
Okay.
Big fan of AC and what she does. But there's no doubt for me, Pools is the place I'm sending somebody to eat if they're coming in for one meal.
All right.
What do you recommend off the menu? Do you have a favorite?
Well, whatever she's got. You got to get the mac and cheese, right? That has to happen. They rotate the menu there a good bit. So I'm a fish guy, so I like seafood. So usually anything that they've got there, I'm going to go that route. But the mac and cheese is the must.
Doug, this has been. Oh. I thought you.
This is what we need Zach for. Honestly, this is why we keep Zach around, is to make sure.
Oh my gosh!
I ended on a mic drop with that apparently.
Yeah, Kat, let's get on with the rest of the episode.
What Bailey was saying was, we're so excited to have you part of the Carolina Hurricanes. It was your reception. I mean, and it's crazy because on Twitter you never know what you're going to get. But honestly, you had all pretty positive reviews, which is pretty outstanding.
You get a 5-star on
Yelp for you. I mean, outstanding for being on Twitter. But we're so excited to see what you're doing and all the new fun things coming for the team that you'll be spearheading. And we saw Don walking around the concourse, so we're excited to see you out and about at some of the games. Even if you got to run from things to things, we do hope you say hello.
Yeah. And as much as you shy away from it, again, it has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on here. So thank you again so much.
Thank you both. And you will definitely see me on the concourse. So I look forward to meeting you both in person soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Doug.
Yes. See ya.
Honestly, I could sit and talk to Doug forever. He had so many. We got through our questions, but we didn't even get technically through all of them because I kept having more and more I wanted to ask him. And his answers were just, that man is such a fan and community leader. The way he talks about it is, you're like, yes, he hears me as a fan, but also he knows the ins and outs of what the team has to do to meet the fans where they want to be. And it's great.
I really hope I'm not alone in saying how freaking excited I am to have a guy like this behind the team, working behind the scenes. Because not only, we heard from the beginning of the interview how knowledgeable he is about what goes on behind the scenes, especially with a lot of the renovations that are happening and the changes coming to the lot itself. But just hearing how knowledgeable he is on the business side of things and the fan side of things. I didn't expect him to go into as much of a blurb in the, dark ages and, the changes then versus now, like that. As a fan, especially who joined and didn't get to know much about the Canes until the 2011 era, like that was, I don't know, really cool for me personally. That was awesome.
He's got to see the team through so much, whether he's been working with the team or as a fan, and just to see someone that's seen how the team has grown, what's been put into this team. And so he knows kind of like where our ground roots are and what he can do to just continue to grow, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm excited to see him on the concourse, excited to see what he's doing with York.
Means I got to get a visit out so I can meet this man. Yeah.
We've kind of got a 3-headed dragon up in that front office. It's kind of awesome.
Gosh. Yeah.
But for now, we could just keep rambling because we were both like just so excited.
I was awestruck. I didn't expect him. I didn't expect it to be that cool. That was awesome. And before we get on with the rest of the episode, where we'll talk about some other news around the Canes and the organization itself, want to take a few minutes to thank our sponsors, the first of which is DraftKings. And the beautiful voice that you heard doing our wonderful Manscaped ad read is back to do our DraftKings Sportsbook ad read. Richie, take it away.
Yeah, so you know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? It's only like 2 days the whole year without a game. Two. So with so much happening and so much action, that makes just about every day a game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. It really couldn't be any easier, any simpler. Right now, for the NFL opener, Thursday, September 5th, get the Kansas City Chiefs and -148, defending NFL champions Patrick Mahomes. If you like Baltimore Ravens might cover the spread, +2.5. You got that at +102 right now. So look at what you want to bet. And if you are new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers, bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. Again, that's code THPN. For new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas City, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gaming resources at dkng.co/base.
And of course, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip leg day, or maybe it's your therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, Canes activities, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. I have personally never done BetterHelp, but my boyfriend has, and he talks many things about it. And honestly, girls, for all of you listening, isn't it really great to find a guy who's been to therapy? Yes. The answer is
yes. No ifs, ands, or buts.
But yeah, so I mean, from everything I've heard from him and from others that I've used it, it's just a great way to really share your feelings, like things plaguing on your mind, and you can find therapists ready at your fingertips pretty much. If you don't match with someone, you can find someone else. And it's just like that easy on-the-go way to really take care of those inner heart issues because, you know, as sports fans, we show all our emotion during the game outside, but then back at home, we're internal and we got to take care of it. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get a 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Guys, go take care of yourselves.
And you know, one way you can take care of yourselves, sometimes, you know, sports can be therapy in and of themselves. And boy, do we have a great promo for you guys, especially new users. We have a wonderful sponsor in SeatGeek. Shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring us. They've been our sponsor for quite a while now, and we've really enjoyed having them along for the ride. For those of you that aren't aware, SeatGeek is a ticketing app. Whether you're looking at sports, concerts, events of any kind held in stadiums and arenas alike, SeatGeek has likely got a ticket for you. And it takes the confusion out of buying tickets, guys. It's super easy to buy through SeatGeek. If you're curious, you're looking at seats and you're wondering, maybe is this a good seat? Is this a bad seat? They've got a system for that. They have a 0 out of 10 score on each ticket to know if you're getting a good or bad deal. Green, and red. Green, good, red, bad. Seems pretty simple to me. If you guys are sitting here viewing, hello, we have a great deal for you guys. If you are a new user on the SeatGeek app or website, be sure to go to SeatGeek and use code thesurgecast for $20 off your first SeatGeek order. That is right, $20. Your Sebastian Aho discount or money off, whatever you want to call it.
Especially because I believe some tickets just went out and about for Canes fans.
Yeah.
And if you're not quite into knowing what your schedule is then, or you've already got your ticket secured, there's quite a few summer concerts still going on.
Absolutely. Summer's not over yet.
Summer's not over yet. And if you go to any of the places, especially if you're in the Raleigh area, you go to Walnut Creek, you go to Red Hat. I mean, $40 lawn ticket, take off $20, even if it's just some of those processing fees. That's a good deal, guys.
Be sure to head to Red Hat Amphitheater before, it all engulfs in, demolition and whatnot.
It changes.
So yes, it changes. It moves down the street, as my dad likes to say. So whether it's you, whether it's a friend, be sure to direct them over to SeatGeek if you are purchasing for the first time. Again, code thesurgecast for $20 off your first SeatGeek order. When you are buying your tickets, be sure to look out for that promo code box as you are checking out. Be sure to also look for a link in our descriptions and in our bios for the podcast to figure out where to buy. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring. And last but not least, we save our last spot for our wonderful OG sponsor, and that is Primo X Hockey. Guys, if you are in the Triangle area, you are in any of the area in any of the Carolinas, we have a great local hockey shop for you guys. If you are looking for gear, if you're looking for merch to rep for a local hockey shop, if you're looking to up your hockey game, Primo X Hockey has the gear and the merch for you. Be sure to head over to primoxhockey.com and use code SurgeCast at checkout. We talked about that Sebastian Aho number for SeatGeek. Primo X has something very, very similar. At checkout, be sure to use code SurgeCast in all caps, just SurgeCast, for 20% off your order. Your Sebastian Aho discount. It doesn't get any better than that. And that is on the website, guys. I am more of an online shopper, so that appeals more to me. But if you guys are in the Triangle area, they do have a warehouse on Diggs Drive. So if you are looking to go for some in-person shopping, meet the guys over at Primo X, be sure to let them know that the SurgeCast sent you. You may not get a discount, but you are going to be in some great company. And so just so you know hours, they're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. through 3 p.m. on Saturday. They are closed on Sundays. But head over to 1401 Diggs Drive, Suite E in Raleigh. Cool thing about going in person, if you are a skater and you play on ice predominantly, they have $5 skate sharpenings in warehouse. That's pretty darn cool to me. So again, if you're not an online shopper like I am, you won't get a discount code, but be sure to head over to the warehouse on Diggs Drive. That is primoxhockey.com. If you are an online shopper and you're using that discount code, that Sebastian Aho discount code, again, SurgeCast, know that you do get free shipping within the continental US. Again, head over to primoxhockey.com, code SurgeCast, 20% off your order.
I mean, if you're not taking advantage of going to see some awesome shows for the end of summer or even preparing for Canes hockey, what are you even doing?
Oh, yeah. No, we've got some awesome codes for people. And there's something to be said about, you can 2x speed it through them. Like I'm sure a lot of you probably do. But
I mean, you can skippers be welcome. But I mean, if it's it's got a taste of everything. I mean, you've got some Manscaped, you got some BetterHelp, you've got some deals on concert or game tickets. Also, for if you want to do your own little hockey stuff going on. I mean, you got all of it.
You got one for everything. Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you can't forget DraftKings. I know everyone's waiting for the sports to get ramped back up because we all want to see our wallets empty out. But
because the NHL is not, or the NFL is not going to do that enough for all you football lovers. So, oh god, but
we'll keep it short and sweet. I mean, honestly, talking with Doug was one of our main things for this episode. There haven't been a whole lot of updates, but we wanted to touch base because we love talking with our wonderful caniacs. And I mean, just talking about a little bit of news we got before the season starts getting ramped back up. You've heard, of course, we've covered all the major news of the Eric Stahl night and Nate just being signed.
Missed. You were missed last episode.
Yes, I am sorry. I missed. But you guys got Bailey. That was honestly, that was me getting Bailey back on consistently for you guys.
So Zach didn't have to host 2 podcasts by himself.
Just talk. Zach's really good at talking to himself.
Not with all the guests he's had on lately, though.
That's true. I mean, that's
racking in guests, I suppose.
Our one thing of news now is, of course, there's rumors of Tony DeAngelo going to SKA to play over there. I mean, we weren't thinking he was going to stick with us, so that makes sense.
There were a few rumors going around. I know a lot of people I saw on Twitter had them in their kind of blue line mock-ups, which I mean, he did okay last season. I don't really know where to kind of stand with that. I suppose I honestly really like the way our blue line looks now. I think the one guy I'm really excited for, Sean Walker, I think is a huge upgrade. Personally, I think TDA is kind of doing what he needs to do for the time being.
He wants to play hockey, but there's not really a place for him right here. So, I mean, it makes sense. But, I mean, we do have some fun little news, of course. While Tony is leaving, we do have some fun news. I know everyone, of course, as time goes on and on, every Canes fan is like, when are we going to see
Canes prospects?
When are we going to see Nikishin? When are we going to see Nikishin? When are we going to see Nikishin? Fun. We've heard recently, of course, that we could see him as early as spring once his KHL contract is up. It's always been that. It's always been we have to wait on his KHL. They couldn't get him over.
There was no buyout. There was no chance of deal working between the NHL and KHL for that. Mm-hmm. The KHL loves him too much for them to give up talent like that sooner than they have to.
We are excited to hear that we should expect him in less than a year now, and if all
it's still 2025,
and also and also see him, straight on the roster. That'd be great.
From what if I'm remembering who broke that news, I think it was Eric Tulsky who kind of broke that and saying we could see him on the roster. Like he strikes me as a man who's very, very careful with his words. But
Tulsky wanted to drop that so you guys would stop bothering him about Jarvis.
Oh God.
He's very smart. He knows how to divert attention if he can.
We need a freaking Twitter counter for days without Jarvis signing or something like that.
But like Doug said, it's not a big time limit on it. So we want to make sure all the pieces are right.
It's not the time limit we're worried about, Kat. We're impatient. We're impatient as fans.
Well, I mean, we do, while we wait on the Jarvis signing, we do, of course, the Canes do have stuff to keep us entertained as the time is starting. So, of course, we've got the Canes 5K you guys can all sign up for. It'll be Sunday, September 22nd at 8:30.
I heard, that is filling up quickly. So if you were
I'm going to be there. I'm working on signing up. I will be walking it, but I will be there. You can still walk for fun.
Absolutely. They made us run one of those for soccer, but you can absolutely you can walk it.
I don't want to run without a ball.
They're not going to make you run. It's fine.
But And they also, it was really fun, is they released their 2024-25 theme nights. So you guys can all mark them on your calendar and be prepared. Of course, we've got opening night, which is October 11th against Tampa Bay. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I know quite a few people who are ready to really boo a certain person coming back into PNC.
He pulled our leg for a little bit. We were expecting to see him in red, but
I didn't think there would be someone I would dislike more for that kind of move than Tarasenko, but I think we have found. I mean,
but I will say, Kat,
you either become the hero or you stay long enough to see yourself become the villain, and he did.
Speaking of potential boos, I know there's a lot of people who are protecting the man who is now signed to play on the team we play for the next theme night following opening night.
Yep. We got October 15th. We got First Responders Night, and we're playing a Metro rival in the Devils. And I think we
Brett
have
Pesce, Stefan Nason,
and good old Dougie is still there.
Yeah, so there's a few different people.
But guys, why boo them? Why boo them when we have our favorite person to boo on that team instead?
I was gonna say, Eric Hollis still plays. Is he?
I think he does.
Rid of
there
him
was
just
rumors
yet?
of him leaving, and everyone tied it into, well, now he's scared because Nason's on his team. But I don't think he actually went anywhere. But guys, as a Brett Pesce fan, that man wanted to play here. His family loved it. His family loved it here. He wanted to play here. The years in the contract didn't work out. And you're like, well, then why did he say he always wanted to play for the Devils? You're not going to shit talk the team that just signed you for a bunch of money. Why would you ever do that? That's terrible PR.
That's horrible marketing on.
And at least that team, he's near his family. So, like, it's the way it goes. And he gets to go there with some friends that he's played with before. Absolutely. So all in all, I mean, it was the right move for the player. I, of course, wish he was still a Kane. But, guys,
do not boo that man, please.
Boos for the person on the Devils that truly deserves it and apparently relishes in it, and Eric Holland.
I mean, if he's wearing friendship bracelets, might as well. He's asking for it.
The next game, of course, is Sunday, November 17th. We play the Blues, and it'll be Hockey Fights Cancer Night. Always a very important time for many fans and many players in the Canes. Staff members, everyone. It's a very important night. We get North Carolina night on, actually, my birthday, December 10th against the Sharks. North Carolina night, raise up. We get Pride night on December 13th against the Senators. And then, of course, the day that everyone, and you guys covered before, but Eric Staal jersey.
We finally have a date.
Night. Yep, January 12th against the Ducks. So you got to wait till next year, but I mean, that's going to be a pretty fun game.
Pretty exciting thing to look forward to. Absolutely.
You get Star Wars night following that on January 23rd against the Jackets.
Yes.
And then Whalers night, a fan favorite, but funny enough, against a different team than I think we've ever had for Whalers night. On February 27th, we're playing Buffalo. So normally, I thought it was normally Bruins, and I think we played the Devils recently.
We played the Devils last year.
I love that we won't have Christmas colors. That's fantastic. Kids Day follows that for March 9th against the Jets. I think the Jets had Kids Day last year, if I remember right.
Yep.
I think so, because I remember the drawing of the Jets. Military Appreciation Day, Sunday, March 30th against the Islanders. And Fan Appreciation Night. The Canes love to consider us, guys. And, of course, April 13th against the Leaves. I mean, why not have Fan Appreciation Night for your fans against the team whose fans seem to hate them every other day?
This is true. I mean, if you haven't heard Steve Dangle yelling at himself on a screen constantly, I mean, that's just the epitome, I think, of Toronto Maple Leafs hockey. I will say, though, I'm secretly kind of hoping this isn't the final list for theme nights. I'm hoping there's a few more, because there's a few left off on here that we've seen in years past that I've personally really enjoyed watching from afar. Not that I'm, local and able to enjoy it like the rest of you caniacs, but NASCAR night is missing.
you're
Which
right.
I was hoping this would be the year. Maybe we'd finally get it against Nashville, and it'd be, the meeting of acronyms. But
I also might be crazy, but I feel like I saw this list at one point, and maybe it's changed, or maybe I've just misread it. But I swear there was like a Grateful Dead night or something, and now I look at it and I don't see it.
I thought there was. That might have been on a mock-up. I vaguely remember that too.
Or maybe they replaced that for Eric Stoljersy retirement night. I mean,
because a lot of these look like things we've already had before. This just looks like a smaller list of theme nights to me. The other one that's missing that I would like to see.
Sorry. This is why. You go to the link at the Canes when they posted the theme nights, and you'll get a few more in depth. So, of course, you also have Halloween night. We play the Boston Bruins on October 31st.
Okay.
You also have Veterans Day celebration against the Pittsburgh Penguins on November 7th. You get Mental Health Awareness Night against the Dallas Stars on November 25th. And Black History Month celebration against the Kings Saturday, February 1st. Women in Sports celebration. Love to see it. Against the Edmonton Oilers March 1st. Special Needs Night is Tuesday, March 11th against Tampa Bay. Oh, yeah, there it is. Grateful Dead Night against the Nashville Predators, March 25th. And then the rest, I believe, are everything that I covered.
So, I mean, there's a theme night. There's a theme night against Nashville, but it's not NASCAR night. I honestly, I'll take it.
It'll be fun. It's always fun when we play the Preds, and we're going to see some familiar faces on the Preds as well. But yeah, guys, mark your calendars, prepare for Canes hockey. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We know it was short and sweet, but honestly, having Doug on was amazing. And we again, are so grateful, so happy that happened. And we are excited as the season starts to ramp back up that we'll have some more faces join us, some more familiar Canes faces, ones we've had on before, maybe ones we haven't had on yet. But of course, Zach will be back with us. Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, before we get into outros and things like that, do want to give a big shout out to our missing co-host, Zach R. Martin, on Instagram, onetruezach, or onetruezach, spelled out O-N-E, TrueZach on Twitter. Or Twix, as Kat likes to call it. I don't know if you heard, I paid you homage last episode, and Zach hated me for it. If you're looking to follow some of his writing, he is the beat writer for the Hurricanes over at the Hockey Writers. Be sure to go look at some of his articles. He is also the main host of the Locked on Hurricanes podcast, so be sure to go follow him over there. He's had some awesome guests on recently. Kat, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twix at caniacchic or on TikTok at KBTHunter74 for the best defenseman in the league. But yeah, I'll be up and on there. Of course, as the season starts, I will be at pretty much all of the home games as well. So yeah, come say hey if you want. But you can also find more lovely hockey things if you love to talk with us and listen to Canes hockey. But there's also other podcasts about Canes hockey, other hockey news, other teams, all of that. You can find it on our lovely podcast network. So go to THPN, thehockeypodcastnetwork.com. Check them out. They are great. They have helped us so much growing as a podcast with our lovely sponsors and everything else. We couldn't ask for a better home.
Yeah, no, they've been really, really great to us since our I don't know if you want to call it christening or joining of the network, whatever it is you want to call it. But if you're looking for any hockey related podcast, likelihood is the Hockey Podcast Network has something for you. Even if you're not looking for something specifically team related, they likely have something for you. Some of the cast member from Shoresy has a podcast with the Hockey Podcast Network and sometimes has his co-stars on with him. So if you're we've literally got everything for you guys. So hockeypodnet on Twix, the hockeypodcastnetwork.com, everywhere else. Me personally, you can follow me over on Twitter, X, whatever, at baileyycurtis, and that is Bailey with 2 Y's. Go follow me over on Instagram at baileyycurtis. If you're looking to follow the podcast, we're right here. Hello. Hi. How you doing? Be sure to follow us on all social platforms at the SurgeCast, and that includes YouTube. Our channel is the SurgeCast. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. Lovely to see your beautiful faces. Be sure to comment down below. Let us know what the coolest part of the Doug interview was, because I could sit here and recite every single moment that I loved from that interview, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well.
I honestly think it's him saying, man, I already bought my damn ticket to New York.
Oh gosh, how candid he was.
One of us.
One of us. One of us. Yeah. So that interview was awesome. Let us know your thoughts, as well as thoughts on other Canes news coming to light as well. We need to start a counter on when Seth Jarvis is getting signed. I know a lot of you are like me and you're impatient, even though there's plenty of time for it to get done. So let us know when you think that might happen, what that might look like. We're always looking to hear your thoughts. Be sure to hit that big like button down below, as well as that big red subscribe button. And right next to that, you will also see a little bell notification icon. Be sure to click that as well, so you never miss an episode. You can find link trees in all of our bios, all across our social media platforms, to figure out where to follow my lovely co-hosts, as well as me, as well as where to listen to the podcast on any listening platform. But with that, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We've had a great time recording this for you guys, and I know there's a lot to look forward to in the Doug Warf era coming next.
Yep. So much fun things, so many fun things to go with the team, things to go with what's going on around PNC. It's a fun growing time for the Canes. Can't wait to see what we do on the ice. The season's just ramping up for us and the Canes season. So we'll see you guys soon. But for now, for season 4, episode 3, I'm Kat.
I'm Bailey. And with Zach next time, we'll see you here at the SurgeCast.
See you later.